and welcome online to all our family. This is a special presentation of 710 KURV and Radio United. I'm Sergio Sanchez, and this is our podcast, the Pulse of the 956 South Texas Business Talk. I try to get it shortened. Maybe we put it on a business card in the near future. Yes, I'm Sergio Sanchez, your host, and we have our former mayor working to be the future mayor of our city of Edinburgh, Richard Molina, joining us on this podcast. Hey, thanks for making the time.
Thanks for having me, Sergio. I appreciate
with
it.
us. It's been a while since we've done a lot of interviews. You as mayor,
Yes.
and I remember first go around. I was impressed how you worked as a cop
Yes.
for the city of Edinburgh,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And then there was something that you didn't like. Say, you know what? I need to get in there. I need to get in the mix.
Yes.
So tell me that story. How you got started in politics?
Well, first and foremost, I was somebody that never really was involved in politics. I didn't like it. It's almost like you feel like you're calling or you're destined to do something. So I did not volunteer to work the city council meetings. I was assigned to work the city council meetings. So
Over at PD in
Yes.
Edinburgh. So,
Yes.
make sure you're going to do it.
Yeah. So I worked there for 11 years, and I eventually became a police sergeant, had my own shift, came up through the ranks, was able to do a lot of things there. So I get assigned to work City Hall at the city council meetings, and I'm standing there in the back. I don't want to be on that detail, and then I start listening to the mayor and the council at the time, and I start observing. I start listening to how things, and then I started to realize, hey, these are the guys that are making the decisions on our health insurance, the decisions on what streets are going to get fixed, the decisions on, what projects are going to come into the city, the yeses and the nos. So for me, I got a chance to work the next one and the next one. And I worked a couple of these meetings to where I started to say, you know what? I feel like I can do this. Like I could run for mayor. And I remember looking to another cop that was working because there was two of us in the back. We're usually the ones in the back. And I always when I was the council member and mayor in the future, I would always make it a point to shake those people's hands that were in the back of the room because we kind of pass right by those police officers that are working either the city of McAllen, city of Edinburgh, and we take it for granted that you don't know you could have a future council member or mayor in the back or leader, state rep, congressman could be there, right? So I looked at the other police officer. I said, I'm going to run for mayor. And he's like, Molina, whatever, tell me another one. So eventually, I run for city council, win, and run for mayor and win. And I'm the first city employee from the city of Edinburgh to come as an entry-level police officer and get to serve as mayor. Now, there's been other people. I've heard the history. I thought I was the first one. And when I became a council member, they said, nope, there was a city employee that eventually became a council member. So I was the first to come from entry level all the way to mayor. So I've had the opportunity to serve from the very bottom all the way to the very top. And I've been there. So there's a wide range of things that I'm familiar with that other perspectives that I have. I have a lot of friends that still work for the city that keep me afloat and tell me, since I haven't been there for 4 years, they still keep me in the loop. And it's one of the main reasons I'm running because I've got a lot of people that have come up to me and said, hey, when you were there, you did a pretty good job and we'd love to have you back. So that's why I'm running again.
That was a 4-year stint, right?
It was a 4-year stint. Yes.
I got to ask, I don't think I've ever asked you this before.
Yes.
So you're a cop and then you run city council, you won on city council.
Yes.
And then you jump over to be mayor.
Yes.
You weren't a cop anymore.
No, I wasn't a cop
right?
anymore.
So
yeah.
how do you pay the bills during that time? Because this is a volunteer gig. People
this is a
don't
volunteer
realize
gig.
that mayors don't get paid.
Well, I had already left the police department. So this
Then
was
city council.
yeah. So I left in 2011, and in 2005, my brother and I started our own business. We started off from scratch with a fourplex.
Okay.
So this is something that I was doing while I was a police officer. So I always had the entrepreneurial spirit, and I've always wanted to be my own boss. I've always wanted to be an investor. I've always wanted to be in the rental property business. And that came from my dad because my dad was, he didn't do anything major, but he always told me, son, you don't want to work for a boss for, 20, 30 years. My brothers did it, and I can tell you that you know the the uh, the outcome is not good. You want to own your own time. You want to be able to go and come as you please. And at the beginning, I was closed-minded. Dad, I'm fine at the police department. My whole goal was to promote through the ranks. I wanted to eventually be the chief of police. That was my goal as I started promoting. And then, when I started with my brother in 2005 with the rental properties, we started with a fourplex, and then we did, another fourplex. And not only were we a part of the construction, which we were able to save money because we self-contracted everything, but we were also the management team that rented the apartment. So very hands-on approach. So I did that for 6 years before I decided to do it full time. Right? It's not something that and I encourage people that they always ask me, don't quit your day job. Keep your job, keep it as long as that you can until you're comfortable enough that you replace your income that
Yeah.
that's something that you like to
It's
do.
like what they say about you have a hobby, you're making money on the side, develop over the weekend, over time. So maybe someday you can do it
Yes,
full time.
absolutely.
Richard Molina, former mayor of Edinburgh, running for mayor again. And you were working as a cop. Like, how did you get that calling? Was that in your family? Was an uncle
No,
or
no,
somebody?
no. That came from the military. I was in the army, and my whole objective was
When were you in the military?
I was in the military from 1996 to 1999. So my whole objective was to basically go in the military, get the GI Bill to pay for my school, right? So that was my whole objective, and I've always been a background that I wanted to be a coach. My mom was in education. I wanted to be in education, and I was motivated to be a basketball coach. I love the game of basketball. And for me, that was my goal at that time. Now, when I left the military, your whole perspective changes, right? Because you see the world differently. You've been away. You've seen other
Like, where'd you
things.
go when you were in the military? Where'd you
I
travel?
I went
What'd you see?
to in the military. I was in Fort Benning, Georgia, home of the infantry.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
in the infantry, and then I went to Fort Polk, Louisiana. Very hot, super hot there.
Man, you got a lot of good Southern cooking.
Yes, I was over in Fort Hood, Texas, which is out by Killeen,
Let's see.
and I was a part of the First Cavalry Division, and we ended up getting deployed to Bosnia. So once, you get the call to go to Bosnia, another country where at the time they were finishing up the war that they had, right,
Yeah.
between the Serbs, the Croats, and
Croats, all
and the
things, yeah.
Muslims, right, and that's still a spot that's they're always involved in different wars, right, somehow, some way.
Did
Lots
they
of
put you
history
like in
there.
a dangerous spot where you had to,
Oh,
shoot?
Oh yeah, it was
Something
it was a dangerous spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I got the hazardous duty pay and everything, and there was a few car bombings that took place in some of the cities where we were patrolling, but it was a lot of police work. We were patrolling the Humvees, with 50 cals. We would sometimes take the Bradleys out, which were a part of our arsenal. The Bradley, it's like a tank. Uh, so for me, you become very, very spiritual. And that's why I mentioned that over at the debate.
There ain't no atheist in a
That
foxhole. You know
is,
what they
and
say.
that's a true saying. That's a
Yeah.
true saying. So, um, my dad became very spiritual. As a matter of fact, since we're talking about this, he did not miss a mass at the San Juan Shrine. Uh, Back then, remember, it was letters. There was no cell phones or anything like that. So, for me, my brothers and sisters used to joke like, "Hey, Dad's tired of lighting candles." I don't know if you've seen when you go to the shrine. There's all these soldiers that are up there. At one time, my picture was up there, and for me, I remember flying when we flew back. I literally got out of the car and I got on my knees and I kissed the ground because I was grateful.
Richard Molina, former Edinburgh mayor, and he's running for mayor again. Kind of getting to know him a little bit. Next question. Look, I see what you post online on Facebook,
Absolutely, yes.
and you got a beautiful family.
Thank
You're
you,
out there at
thank
the
you.
sporting events and all that.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about your family. I'm going to fuse what you just talked about to it. Tell me about your family, how proud you are, what they're doing. Maybe get to know them a little bit. But also, would you want the military for your babies as well, for your kid? Would you want them to join the military?
Absolutely not. I'm too protective as a father. You know, um, my wife runs the business. Dalia, she runs the business.
So your rental
One
properties,
hundred
everything
percent.
you're doing.
She runs the business, and I also have a home health and a provider service. So there's some things that we've been through, and we've been through a whole lot. So the agreement that we had from the very beginning is she wasn't going to come out. She wasn't going to come out. We discussed that because the last time I ran, we ran into a whole lot of problems with our business, employees leaving, taking clientele from the rental side. The last time there was, there was these funds that had come from rental properties. We had property managers that were taking that money, uh, taking patients, taking clients out. So we said, we're not going to go through that again. I'm going to go and work the campaign. You stay there. She doesn't want anything to do with the spotlight. And the kids, take care of the kids. My son just went to the University of Houston. So,
Go Cougs. Attaboy.
yeah, and he had the same discussion with me about going
About
to the
the
military. And I said, no, it's not going to happen. But I did say this. I said, if you have, because ultimately as parents, once they reach a certain age, there's nothing that we can do,
Understood.
right? So I told my son Richard, I said, listen, go commissioned. I was enlisted. But if you have it in your heart that you want to do what I do and what I did, I said, then what you need to do is this. You need to finish your education and then you become enlisted. And he was still hesitant. He still was thinking, no, Dad, I
You
would.
do it now, right?
Right. So then I got online and I showed him the difference between
Yeah. Compensation.
enlisted
Yeah.
and he looked at it and the enlisted makes 1/3 of what you make as commission. And he saw it. He said, Dad, I get you. I said, so if you get your bachelor's and you say, hey, this is something that he wants to be an attorney.
Okay.
And then I said, even if you want to do that, if you want to be an attorney, you can. There's still jobs in the military if you do want to serve. So
I've got an 18-year-old. Believe me, I've had those thoughts, and I've explained that. I haven't been there yet because he hasn't, asked to go to the military. But yeah, get your college degree first, and you have something to offer, and they will bring you in with a much higher rank in compensation. That's a great idea.
yes.
And
No, and I showed him the pay. I mean, he
Yeah.
wants to see the pay online. I mean, it's public information. You could see it's night and day.
how many more kiddos you got?
We have two babies left at home, two twins, but they're seniors in high school.
Yeah.
So
They'll always be your babies.
they're all my babies. I'm very very protective of my children. It's just, the thing is, it's a different generation. It's what I think with us, it was sink or swim. For instance, when I went to the military, my dad was dead set. No, you don't want to do that. That's a mistake. You could end up in a body bag. Of course, that we as Latinos and Hispanics, we always think the worst. My mom was like, I think that's a great idea. I think that's great that you go and find yourself.
Well, because she wanted you to mature or grow up.
She gave me the tough love. And it was a little bit different for us. So for me, I knew that when my mom said that it was something good. And for me, it's one of the proudest accomplishments that I've done in my life, to be able to wear that uniform and to be able to be an American soldier. It means so much. It means so much.
Porque en la militar ya no tienen chanclas, tienen botas. They don't have the chancla. They got boots. They're going to kick your butt straight.
That's
Get
right.
disciplined
That's right.
in
Well,
the
I heard,
military.
every year it gets, the lighter, right? But,
Yeah.
from what I remember, they can put their hands on you back when I was there, and I know things have changed, but for me, it's a big part of who I am, and even to this day, there's structure, there's rules, there's guidelines, and then you're out there, with all different kinds of people from different backgrounds. So you get to see, they get to talk about their parts of the world, and you get to talk about yours. But one of the big conversations that I would have with them is, hey, you need to come see Edinburgh Texas, and you didn't come see the valley. And I was still even then a big advocate for being from El Valle de Texas. So for me, I was able to bring a couple of friends down. Back in the day where you could cross and go party into Mexico. I was able to share that experience, the Reynosa experience and the Matamoros experience that you're no longer able to do now, right? Where you could get
safely.
Yes, yes.
I get you. I understand. You can go, but you're playing Mexican roulette now.
Yes.
You just never know.
Yes.
Richard Molina is a former mayor of Edinburgh, and he's running for mayor again in Edinburgh. There's a lot of stress in being mayor, man. Why do you want the hassle, all the stress, to be the leader of the city?
Sergio, I've always believed that I got to fight the good fight. I always have to fight the good fight. I'm competitive by nature. And really, I think Edinburgh is in a place to really surpass McAllen. When I was there and I would hear McAllen got this or McAllen got that, I would take it personal. I'd be like, why are they not coming to Edinburgh? So for me, right now, I think we need somebody that has the experience, that has come up through the ranks, like in the military, somebody that owns businesses in Edinburgh, that knows what it's like to struggle to make payroll, that looks at the appraisal value on my buildings, on my rental properties, on my home, and say, man, who's going to speak up that these taxes are just soaring? Nobody speaks out for me, so I got to speak up, but then who's going to speak out for you and you and you? And I feel like, hey, we need to really shine the light on this, which is why one of the things I'm running on is giving relief to homeowners. And I talked about this when you asked, are you going to raise taxes, lower taxes, leave it as is? I did some research, and there's a state law that allows municipalities like Edinburgh to pass through a majority vote resolution that gives up to 20% savings on the appraisal from the city side, where they can see instant relief. Now, it's not going to be thousands of dollars, but $100, $150 a month goes a long way to families now. So that's something that I'm going to push immediately. And I said this, I go right to business. I work fast. I work hard. Just like when I passed term limits. I don't know if you know this, but I was a big advocate when you brought me 8 years ago, 10 years ago. They said, what's the first thing you want to do? I said, I want to pass term limits. If the president of the United States can only serve 2 4-year terms, the same thing should apply for the city mayor and the city council. And let me tell you something. Not too many municipalities like this. They don't like it. They don't like it because they want to be able to say when they're going to go away, right? So right off the bat, I kept my word. We went to the voter and we put on term limits. So no mayor can serve more than 2 4-year terms. So the question becomes, well, so that means you can only serve 1 more term, Richard? Well, my first win as mayor was in 2017.
Before the term limit.
Before the term limits.
Ordinance kicked in.
Yes.
Okay.
So in 2018, it became law. So the law doesn't go retroactive. So when I win, it'll be my first term of my first time in mayor. I can still run a second term. Okay. So that's what, and you can't make that up because I didn't know that the chips were going to fall like this.
Yeah. Run a second term and stick around for 2 years, or the full 2-year, 2 terms?
Yeah, well, I can do, so my whole plan is I have an 8-year plan. Okay. So talking about 2 4-year terms, I want to do all 8 years. I don't have ambitions to run for state rep or Congress or no. I'm just a city guy. I've always been a city guy. I've worked for the city. My businesses are in the city. I'm happy being the city mayor. And we're able to do so much at the local level that I like it very much. I like the fact that it's something that you have influence on things that are happening in your backyard.
I'm taking notes, people. I'm not like texting my wife, hey, honey, do you need like milk and bread? I'm taking notes as we're talking. Richard Molina, former mayor of Edinburgh. He's running to become mayor again. Now, let me rewind a little bit.
Yes.
You said the 20% savings on the city tax
Yes,
bill.
on the appraisal side, yes.
Have you run any numbers on what that means as far as we know the potential savings, based on
Right.
it could be 100, 150, whatever it is for homeowners, but at city coffers where you have to still pay the bills. Have
Absolutely.
you run what does that mean as far as a decrease, potential decrease in some of those tax bills for the city to put money in the coffers?
There's a lot of fat. There's a lot of fat there that needs to be trimmed. So for me, you're saying, well, how are you going to do more by cutting, by being able to cut that? Well, the thing is that once you open up those books, you're able to see that there's spending, excessive spending, and you're able to cut different things to be able to make up that money. So when I was there the last time, there was 2 contracts that we cut off at the very beginning. I'm not going to get into specifics, but on the very first week of me being the mayor, we cut off $900,000 in the very first week of contracts of people that they were paying, consultants, different deals. And that now that I'm not there, some of those consultants have made their way back in, and that's where the money's going to come from. That's why they say, Richard Molina's for the people. I don't think people doubt that at all. It's just the fact of, do they want to leave the status quo and the way things are now, or do they really want somebody that's going to come in there and take care of business? So you're saying, how am I going to make up that money? It's very simple. There's fat that can be cut off there. There's different things where they've spent money and they have found the money for other things. And I can get into a specific right now where I can tell you that many people are not aware that there was a shortfall between the football stadium that the city had to get in and put an additional $7 million to close a deal on the Vaquero Stadium. So that's an example of, would I rather use the $7 million to give it back to the people, or would I rather buy a stadium? For me, you still want to keep football in Edinburgh. You don't want to lose it, but there's an in-between where you can please more people and work together.
If I forget, bring up the issue of Edinburgh being a college football town and how we can capitalize on that a little later on. Before I forget, let me take you back to something. And I noticed this in the candidate forum when we had it over at the DHR Health Conference Center. You were waving the flag for Edinburgh. Proud Edinburgh resident. Were you born in Edinburgh?
Born and raised.
So you're an Edinburgh boy, Western Colorado, all the way down, right?
All the way down.
So, but you made mention of the parochial competition, the mindset. Some people would call it Friday night football.
Yes.
Approach, where it's Edinburgh versus McAllen and Mission and Western. Everybody's like competing for the same thing. You made mention Edinburgh for Edinburgh residents.
Right.
Edinburgh first as
Absolutely.
well. How right now the way we're set up and just telling you from what I see in the newsroom, there's many calls for regional minded approaches when it comes to recruiting industry, getting a computer chip factory or getting a data center, something big.
Right.
Kind of like what Brownsville has. Brownsville, they're like, we don't see them anymore. They're like way in the lead with LNG and SpaceX and everything. Brownsville is like, they're leading the economy, driving the economy of the valley.
They are.
We could in Edinburgh or McAllen or Mission, we could land another, I don't know, computer chip maker, something like that.
Yes.
So your thoughts on the regional approach that some individuals in industry and banking, other folks, would say, we need to take a more regional approach, lock arms, work together, maybe even do like a one metropolitan statistical area, which would be Brownsville and which would be Cameron County and Hidalgo County. So your thoughts on the regional idea?
Well, the thing is, we wear 2 hats. We're elected by the citizens of Edinburgh. So everybody from Edinburgh's tugging at you when McAllen gets something or when Farr gets something. That's why I said I've been there in some of these discussions where you have somebody having a conversation with you, but yet they're having a conversation in McAllen and they're having a conversation in Farr. So they're shopping.
Yes.
Right? So it's almost like you have to close the deal because your constituents want you to represent the city and they want it in Edinburgh. But then there's other times where we take that hat off. We put the other hat on when we're going to go talk to Governor Abbott or President Trump or congressman or woman, and we we speak about regionalism because we need those funds, right? So you have to find an in between where you're representing the city of Edinburgh first, right? And then you're also when okay, now we're doing regional. Okay, that's when I call Javier Villalobos or Ambrosio Hernandez or hey, we need to get this done because it's a regional. So I've been able to do a good job of finding the balance for wearing both hats, but it's finding a really good in between because it's not easy. Because sometimes I can go speak for another city, and then my residents get upset at me. Hey, we put you in there to fight for us, and that's something that we need to get better at as far as regionalism. It's just like you said right now. Hey, Brownsville's leading the way. They didn't ask for Edinburgh to go sit at the table or McAllen. They saw an opportunity and they jumped all over it. And it's changing the culture in that area because there's people that are commuting all the way from Edinburgh, all the way from McAllen because they have jobs.
Yeah, at the port or something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
So for me, we have to find an in between. But I've been on the regional level where we do the RGV day and different days at the Capitol and the different days over in Washington. So it's just being able to work with your citizens and then work with the other mayors in the community.
Advantage Edinburgh. So you mentioned the football stadium. It's the county seat. We got the university, big chunk of the medical school, and so on and so forth. The Bert Ogden Arena. So advantage Edinburgh. You got a lot of pieces on that game board. So where do you see the economy growing specifically for a city in Edinburgh? Like what do we take advantage? What's the low hanging fruit for us over the next several years?
The low hanging fruit, I would say, is there's a couple of them. I would go with, you know, clamping on to UTRGB. We're committed. We're all in with that medical school. We give $1 million a year to keep that operating and to keep it going. And our whole thing is to be able to have more doctors, more physician's assistants, more nurse practitioners, and to be able to take care of our elderly because we do have an aging population here in the valley. And I'm also in the same industry with the home health and the provider service. So it's something where we have to continue that and we have to make that medical school grow because this is similar to what happened in San Antonio. In San Antonio, they got a medical school and they blew up. So we're trying to steal a piece from their playbook and trying to duplicate what they were able to do in San Antonio. So for me, we go with the medical school. You know, you have DHR. They're huge. They employ a lot of people. South Texas Health Systems, they employ a lot of people. We just have to keep pressing on that. So for me, we keep focus on that. And also we have to look at, uh, we're going up to the north. There's a development called La Siena, where all of they have had a master plan for 20 years. And they want to bring in retail, restaurants, hotels. 20 years ago, there wasn't anything out there. Now there's rooftops popping up all over the place. There's Esperanza Homes, and they're selling out these subdivisions. So now once you have your rooftops, now you can focus on your retail. So what I would like to do is, I think there's a few players on the table that can put a hotel and conference center right on the corner of Monte Cristo and Business 281. And I think once you get that, you can get an HEB, you can get a Walmart, and you can start spurring the growth in that direction. Now, getting back into UTRGB football, people are looking at that as something that is going to continue to be consistent. We need more hotels. So you get a hotel there, a Embassy Suites, an Omni, something like that. I think that will spur growth in that area. I mentioned this the last time. We still have $20 million of funding that we got for the downtown drainage project area of something that we need to work on too, because we have to protect that courthouse and the hundreds of millions of dollars that the county put into that. So we have a plan that's going to renovate the entire east side of town. I don't know if you've been to Edinburgh and you've noticed that the east doesn't look like the west. But we need to start working on that east side of town because that's the first thing that people see when they drive into the city is the east. They're coming off the Expressway 281. So we have sidewalks, lighting, drainage, and roadways to totally be revamped. So that way, when you come onto the east side, it's going to look the part.
Downtown, because we're a
Downtown.
college town. Uh, we've heard comments through the years. Well, it'd be nice if people don't just leave the courthouse and leave the university and go elsewhere for Friday night and Saturday, where it could become a destination point potentially, especially now that we have Saturday night football and other big events at the university, basketball, things like that. But we still have the issue, as you mentioned, downtown, the flooding problem.
Yes.
When you were mayor, did you run an estimate on what's the price tag to revamp all the tuberia, all the tubes, everything down there to clear the water from downtown, make sure the university doesn't get flooded, make
Right.
sure downtown doesn't get flooded at the
I think
courthouse?
we had a price tag of something like 38 million. So that's why I know that 20 million is going to fix the majority of it.
Yeah.
Won't fix it all, but the majority of it. And it'll give us a good look on the east side of town, which will spur growth and you'll have other people want to invest. There's a restaurant called Sidebar. Have you been there?
No.
It's a really nice restaurant. I see us being able to do more of those type of establishments where people can, grab a glass of wine or have a steak. But it's a very nice restaurant. And we did have back when I was there, we had a second restaurant that was leaning towards going to that downtown area. Once you start getting that, then you'll start to look more like McAllen, where they have these establishments where you can go have a nice dinner. And the good thing about it is, right after that courthouse, 5 o'clock on a Friday, people can be there, right? We just need to be able to produce those type of business.
Go down the street on University. Go that
Absolutely,
way.
absolutely. Where they can stay on the east, just like they do on the west.
Maybe create on the other side of University, create a second floor for El Phoenix, the donut place. Oh,
There you go.
have you considered, you know how other cities, Westlake, or they're putting McAllen pozos, big old retention holes to hold the
Yes.
water. Might that be a potential solution?
Yes, well, we did work on one of those projects while I was there. There was an old area where we had an old library, and we did make a retention pond that we did put there. So we did use some property there to, but that is a quick fix. It's not a long-term fix because we were expecting to break ground with the rest of the drainage project on the east side of town. So we did do some work on the drainage. That once we get everything established, we can go back and cover that up or build something on that in the future.
Edinburgh's growth is amazing. It's like what is it?
Tremendous.
100. You guys said 109,000, right? Compared to what was it, like 40 some odd thousand just a few years back?
That's right.
Population exploding.
When I was there, we got the census up to over 100,000. So we, under my administration, we were able to push that benchmark at 100,000.
Let's look at some of the unfinished business, and this is some of the topics that I know you want to touch on.
Yes.
Unfinished business.
Unfinished
City Hall.
business.
What do you want to do if given a chance to go back by voters?
The parking garage is something that I have been on top of. Parking garage.
The one that they just broke ground for to benefit the county, right? County employees
Right.
and everybody else.
Because I get a lot of complaints from the county employees, residents, business owners that have small businesses in the downtown area where people come, jurors, potential jurors, people that have business at the courthouse, they park on their spots so that their customers can't
Yes.
come in and use their floral shops or make an order at their place or a barber shop. So that issue is a little bit more serious than people have, made light of. Because I'm telling you, I've talked to these business owners, and one of the things I keep hearing is they're losing business and they're afraid that they might go under because of the parking situation. So the parking garage was approved back in August of 2021. It was a project where we went to the county, and the idea was that we were going to take it over if they gifted us the property, but we had until 2026 to break ground on the project. So remember, this is 2021. So I signed off on the $10 million bond, and the plan that we had was the first level was going to be retail because you're using funds from the economic development. So you need to be able to show that you're producing A,
Generate,
jobs,
yeah.
and B, sales tax. So we had a plan to put like a cleaners, a Starbucks, a store in there, a storefront. Why? Because you can't buy a piece of bubble gum in the downtown area in Edinburgh. There's nowhere to go. Once you're going into the courthouse, you can't stop and say, hey, let me grab a cup of coffee. Let me buy a cup of coffee. And that's very important that you go to bigger cities and you see that they have some type of retail in the downtown area, and that's what's missing in the heart of our city. So when we passed the project to go through, what ended up happening was the new administration comes in, I lose my reelection. We know why I lost my reelection, right? I think we did a real good job, but the dark cloud from other things, other allegations that later on showed that they were not true. We started with that, and they put the brakes on the project. So they said they had to do a study, and the study entailed that they stopped the project, and it's been 4 years, by the way, and they said that we didn't have enough parking spaces. What the parking spaces that we were going off of is what the county had recommended that we do, which is anywhere from 250 to 275 parking spaces, which in the original plan, we were ready to go. We had the funding, we were set, we had the green light. So the project over the last 4 years has been put on hold because the city went and paid for studies to show how many parking spaces we actually needed. And at the end, they said, well, we need 700 plus parking spaces. Well, that's going to be 18 million. We
That's
don't have
the
the
number,
money.
700 plus. Yeah,
Yes.
250 right now ain't going to cut it. That's
But it's enough to at least solve the issue of everybody parking around everybody's businesses. So, it might not have a long term, right? Because the city's growing. It might not be there long term, but it's enough right now for it to help and alleviate until they knock down the other courthouse and have an additional 250 spaces.
Do you know if park and ride was ever considered for the county courthouse, or maybe on Klausner, south or north, you got a big old patch. The jury, you're on the jury. Here's where you park, and we'll ride you over to the county and then bring you back. A little shuttle time. Is that ever been
Yeah, I think
considered?
that's something they've been doing as well. There was a
Okay.
shuttle that was already going out.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's something that they've done. They've already done that plan that you're talking about. The
Yeah.
county already executed.
Okay. Issues on Alberta and Ebony Road. What did you want to
Yes.
mention on that?
Those are projects that specifically Alberta Road. That is a main thoroughfare that is by Alfonso Ramirez Elementary. There's another Discovery School that's there. There is it's a big roadway that goes to DHR, South Texas Health Systems. Thousands of people use that roadway. Lots of complaints from the community that project has still not been finished, much like the parking garage. At the end, once they got their study, they still ended up going with the same amount of parking spaces that we had wanted to go with 4 years ago. But remember, it's been delays, delays, and delays. So getting back to Alberta Road,
Yeah.
have you
Yeah,
passed by there and you tried?
I'm thinking of it because coming back from the university with a boy going there, my son and my wife there at the university teaching as well. It's the east-west that is immediately north of the super Walmart, the big Walmart on Trenton, right? Is that the thoroughfare that clogs up all the time? Is that Alberta?
That's it.
Okay, yeah.
That's it.
It's a rush hour. I see all the way from light all the way back up to the other light.
And the roadway, so we approved that project. We did the groundbreaking.
To expand
4 years
Alberta?
ago.
Yeah. Okay.
4 years ago, the project still hasn't been done.
Okay.
So citizens have been complaining about the dust, the dirt, everything that goes on their driveways, that goes on their yards, and they can't get in the roadway and they can't use it. So I've been doing a weekly video update showing people what has been done, that it's been delayed, and that it's just people are frustrated.
The money's there, it's allocated, it's ready to go. It's just, so what's holding it up? What's
Well, apparently they started, and there was some issues there that they had with some easements that they didn't buy,
okay?
and they started the project,
Yeah.
and now where we're at today is these are issues. The parking garage, I bring them up, Alberta Road, Ebony, which is a project that we did, a drainage project back when I was there. They turned around and tore the roadway up again and started another drainage project. And now that's behind HEB on South Plaza. So these are three projects that have been delayed. And I talk about them because they're going to become my babies next month.
How do you get those to move along? Get it done. What do you do?
We need to get the staff on them. You need to constantly be on the contractors.
Okay.
The project management has been not up to par. And there's just been radio silence. Wouldn't say anything about it. It's somebody will put a statement that'll be, but it's got to be a constant update because citizens are frustrated with these projects. They just haven't been able to get done, and there's been a lot of hoopla and we're working on it, and you pass by, and nobody's out there. So since I've been making these videos, there's been more activity. So at least when I go Facebook Live or when I put a video out there, at least somebody's paying attention and somebody's looking out for the projects, because the current administration currently is not doing that. So for me, I kind of feel like then I'll take the lead and I'll show people what I'm doing, because at the end of the day, they're going to become my issues anyway.
Richard Molina, former mayor of Edinburgh. He's running for mayor again. Early vote is on the 20th of October, election day November 4th. Canterbury Elementary, right? Canterbury campus?
Yes.
What's going on there?
Canterbury Elementary, earlier this year, the sewer system backed up and you had all kinds of chaos inside the elementary. That is located on Canton. So it became a big fiasco because all of these young children and educators and staff were basically displaced. They had to go, some of them were transferred over to Freddy Gonzalez Elementary. Some of the kids ended up
That was towards the end of the last school year, right? Like the last month they spent at another campus.
At the Parks and Rec. And I bring this up because the city shied away from it. And the reason I say they shied away from it, because they had a meeting. The school board had an open meeting. And I attended the meeting as a citizen, not as a city leader. And the city didn't have any representation. They didn't want to accept any responsibility for what happened. See, we're in charge of the sewer lines because the sewer lines run off of the roadways. So for me, we had to accept some of that responsibility, if not all of the responsibility. And nobody wanted to talk about it. It was radio silence. Parents were frustrated. Parents were upset because of what happened to their children. And for me, it's like, hey, show up and accept responsibility. What's the big deal? Like, if it happened, fix it. Because it was the second time that it happened within a short period of time. So when I saw this, I did a video on it. And I said, hey, this is about working together. And apparently there was some issues with an easement that the city needed to gift over to the school district in order to expedite the project. And they refused to do it. But at the end of the day, once they got backlash, then they came to the table and they decided to help them out. But I don't believe the city put any money into it, and I think they put the entire burden on the school district, which I do not think it was fair. I think there should have been more unity there, and it seemed like the two entities became separated real quick, and there was some finger pointing there. It wasn't a part of finger pointing. That needed leadership to step up and say, we're working on it, this is what we're doing. And nowadays with social media, I believe I've become so popular and the race has become so popular, and other candidates have started to copy what I do. Like, for instance, this podcast, you'll get other people calling, hey, we want to go on the podcast too because Richard Molina's doing it. So I'll start the trend. So for me, it's like come to the table, accept responsibility. Like, let's work together, let's fix the problem, and then use Facebook Live and use these different type of platforms to show the citizens, you know, that we're being transparent. This is how their money's going. This is what happened. Explain to them. Look, the sewer backed up. A lift station went down. This happened or that happened. People want answers, and I think it's only fair as leaders that we give them those answers and that we explain why and what we're going to do.
It's a wonderful age of communication. Yeah, even the radio guys got to do the online platform stuff, but it's a wonderful age of communication where the citizens are really just one quick message away online and posting information and putting complaints online and stuff like that. Okay, so this came up during the candidate forum a few days back. New innovative forms of revenue, the grants department. Any ideas on what you want to do with grants in the city, grants department? You need to go after new grants, things like that, like new revenue sources for the city.
Yes, absolutely. You know, I was big on grants. I think I brought this up. Back in 2017, I did some research because I was looking into McAllen's grants department because I would see an article grant, this grant, over here grant. I was like, how are they getting all these grants? Well, I noticed that they had a department that dealt with all grants. And it was a whole department. Edinburgh had like one grants writer at the time and one contract grants writer. So I went over to the city of McAllen. I went to City Hall. I looked at the operation. I saw what they were doing, and they basically showed me that there is.
So did they know you were coming, or did you go like in a trench coat?
No.
With a fake mustache and a fedora hat?
I said I had some questions at the time. I was a councilman.
Okay.
And you know, it's a copycat industry. So hey, it's like you see somebody, you know, with a nice car. Where'd you get that car? Or, you know, where'd you get that deal? Or you know, and then you go, where'd you get that low interest rate on your house, on your mortgage? Simple things like that. Oh, you know, I want, and then you go start inquiring about certain things. So the same thing with McAllen. And one of the things that I figured out was I found out that in 2017, the city of Edinburgh was getting $5 million in grants, whether they be state, federal, all of these, it equated to $5 million total. And then I went to the city of McAllen, and you know, the question was, so how much do you guys have in revenue do you get every year? They said, well, we're getting $25 million. So I said, whoa, that's 5 times more the amount of money that they're getting than the city of Edinburgh. So they're not 5 times bigger than the city of Edinburgh. So that's something that I started to look into. And I knew that we had to beef up our grants department. And this is something that I ran on. I would talk about it openly. We need to beef up our grants department. And when I won the election, we were able to recruit the director at the time from the city of McAllen to come over to Edinburgh, and we started adding to our grants department. And we basically had a few people working, and we upgraded the manpower. And I think today there's 6 people. So we had like 1 or 2. Now we have 6 that they just focus on grants. So there's grants for that we were able to get when I was there. In the first year, we went from $5 million to $8 million. So right off the bat, there was instantaneous action. We had more money coming in. We went to the Parks and Wildlife. We got a $500,000 grant to do the hike and bike trail at the Chapin Pond. So those are monies that we were able to get, right? And they go a long ways to be able to do a match. So I think we ended up coming up with another $600,000 at the table, and we were able to complete the project. So those were projects that we did that we saw instant action, and people could see that park has a lot of people that use it. It's got hike and bike trails. It's got a potential fishing pond. They're in need of restrooms, and it's also used as a detention pond. So there's so many things that we can do with that where it's becoming very popular now. One of the plans I want to work on is parking on that place and putting some permanent restrooms. But when you go there in the afternoon, that place is packed. People are out there going for walks, taking the kids on the bikes and stuff like that. And that is working with the grants department and what I had seen, the vision that I saw to see it to fruition. And a lot of people don't know how it got there, but that was making the initiatives that we did to be able to recruit the people that knew how to get it done. And what I like is the fact is that it's kept up to this day, and we got to continue to focus on that because there's a lot of missed opportunities that if you're not out there and you're not being aggressive and you're not showing an initiative, you're going to lose out on that.
No, the labyrinth is huge in Austin and in DC.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's a full-time occupation. Well, Richard, appreciate all the time today.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us. Anything else you want to mention about the campaign?
I'm going to have an event over on Jackson this Thursday at 6 o'clock. It's open to the public. There's a community called La Palmita, vienen de Mexico, Nuevo León, and they're going to host an event. That is a huge family that resides in Edinburgh, and they're all from this ranchito. And some of the community leaders from that family are getting together. There's, if you're from La Palmita, there's thousands in the city of Edinburgh that have originated from that ranchito. And they're going to be hosting an event 6 o'clock on Thursday. There's going to be live music, food, and a great time. It's a meet and greet. We're going to get the community together, and it's going to be right on the corner of Rogers Road in Jackson, but it is open to the public. I will be there 6 o'clock on Thursday, the 16th, and the early voting starts October 20th. And to the 31st, and election day is November the 4th. I've already gone and shopped Edinburgh at J.C. Penney's. I bought my suit for my swearing in, and I know that Sergio will be there too.
J.C. Penney. This is my favorite jacket.
That's right.
This is my podcast jacket, right? There you go. $300. I didn't get it on sale. I fell in love with it. I had to
There you go.
Thanks for stopping by, Richard.
Thanks for having me.
Come and see us again.
We will be back.
Best of luck to you.
Thank
my
you, my
dad
friend.
said, don't shake a man's hand while sitting down, but you're sitting down too, so that works okay.
That's right.
Thanks for stopping by.
Yes.
All right. Hey, join us for the pulse of the 956 South Texas Business Talk. I'm Sergio Sanchez. Thanks for joining us. Yeah. You doing radio too? You're going to record some.
I need to work out a plan right now.
The studio is yours if you need it for recording. Any studio. Mario's, KURV, whatever. It's clean. Get it produced for you. I hope I didn't speak out of turn. I'm super. Super. Best of luck,
All right, brother.
That was long, man. It was so long.
How long did I do it? How long was it?
Like 45 minutes.
It's already running out of English now.
I think it's 45.
How was it viewing?
It was good. It just kept the connection was pretty bad, so it just kept stopping.
Like freezing?
Yeah.
Maybe the audio's there.
Were you guys also live?
No, I was recording from here.
Oh, okay.
No, we were live on mine.
Oh, on his, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Se calentó el teléfono. It got hot.
Yeah. It's the long. It's right around the corner there. The voting day.
So I was doing the speech, Sergio, and I was like, guys, let's make Edinburgh great again. And two guys walked out.
Yeah.